Hello and welcome back to ADHD Support Talk Radio. My name is Tara McGillicuddy and I am the host of ADHD Support Talk Radio. I am also an adult ADD productivity coach and the founder and director of ADDclasses.com. And at ADDclasses.com, we provide virtual support and education to people affected by ADD and ADHD. We offer free teleseminars. We have an extensive ADD audio library with more than 150 courses, and we also offer more in-depth support programs. And you can learn more about ADDclasses.com by going to the website www.ADDclasses.com. And with that, I would like to welcome back Lynne Edris to ADHD Support Talk Radio. In just a moment, we're going to be talking about ADD, ADHD, and exercise, and some of the challenges that can get in the way of us, those of us with ADHD, exercising on a regular basis. So welcome back, Lynne, to ADHD Support Talk Radio.
Thanks, Tara. Thanks for having me.
Good. Before we get started talking about exercise, can you let our listeners know a bit about yourself and also how they get in touch with you after they listen to you on today's show?
Okay, sure. Again, my name's Lynne Edris. The name of my business is Coaching ADD Vantages. I coach professionals struggling with, typical ADD kinds of challenges: disorganization, time management, procrastination, weak follow-through, and having too much on their plates. So I'm a woman with ADD myself, and I've gone from, living in that constant state of chaos and overwhelm that so many of us are struggling with, to really, feeling like I live a life of sufficient calm and really feeling successful. So I help my clients, get there themselves as well. You can learn more about me, what I do, contact me through my website at www.coachingaddvantages.com.
Okay, great. Welcome back. And definitely check out Lynne's website. She has some great resources on it. I highly recommend it. So we're going to be talking about exercise today, and I know, when I invite you to come on the show, we go back and forth about, different topics to discuss, and we just thought exercise would be such a timely, important topic for those of us with ADHD, and, I'll admit it firsthand, or before we start, is this is something that, a lot of my listeners know who've listened to me over the past, 5 or so years, know that exercise has always been quite a bit of a challenge for me, and there have been times I've been very successful at it, and times that I'll share that I've been struggling with it. And I got to tell you, right now is one of those times where I am struggling to be consistent with exercise, because I was at a point years ago where, I was doing it every day, I was feeling great, and it's not happening right now. So I thought it made perfect sense, because I know a lot of other people listening can relate too, because it's not just me. I'm not being narcissistic here. It's a lot of people with ADHD who go through this challenge with exercise. So I'm so glad we're talking about this today, Lynne.
Me too, Tara. And I'm in a similar boat. It's I have 3 sisters, one of whom is a personal trainer. The other one, one of the other ones who's also I think they're pretty much all kind of obsessed with exercise. They, when we go away together, we do our girls' weekends, they talk about how, they can't wait to check out the gym, they can't wait to get their workouts in. And I always joke that, I didn't get that gene. So I really have to really be intentional about it, and it's not something that's ever really, in my adult life been something that I've looked forward to and really had that, I can't miss a workout kind of feeling. And it's tough. It's tough for a lot of us. So, hopefully we can give people a little more insight, in this call into why it's such a struggle for us.
And the thing with both of us is we understand how beneficial exercise is for people with ADHD and other coexisting issues like anxiety, depression. I mean, we're both familiar with the work Dr. John Rady has done about exercise. We know logically how helpful it is too. So, there's people who are listening right now that may not really know how beneficial it is. So you and I know this, and it's still a struggle for us. So imagine, what type of a struggle it can be for the people who aren't even educated about it, who don't understand how important it is or how beneficial it is for people with ADHD to exercise. So, we're here, saying, okay, we get it, and we're struggling, but we're still, we know that it can improve.
Definitely. And it needs to improve. We all know that regular and sufficient exercise is good for us, both physically and mentally. It can improve your physical condition, of course, as well as your mood, but helps us to maintain a healthy weight, reduce our risk of medical conditions. We all know osteoporosis, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart disease, diabetes, all of those things are improved by exercise. But exercise also lessens stress. It actually improves our reactions from a neurotransmitter perspective to the inevitable stresses in our lives and makes us better able to manage it. And it also really has positive effects on our mood. Exercise increases the level of certain neurotransmitters, and some of those neurotransmitters are the same neurotransmitters that medications for things like depression and anxiety are targeted. So those neurotransmitters and things like endorphins, for example, those feel-good brain chemicals that regulate mood and pleasure and the perception of pain are all elevated with exercise. So it provides positive effects on our mood. It provides positive effects on, how we feel about ourselves and our lives, and where we are in the world. But it also has really clear, brain benefits, cognitive benefits. Scientists know now that exercise actually improves the number of new functioning brain cells that are created every day, which is really cool. So exercise actually increases the number of brain cells, but it also improves the connections between existing cells, which is really important for all of us. But for those of us with ADHD, exercise is even more important. And you mentioned, Dr. Rady's work. He's written some, terrific stuff about exercise and ADHD in that book, Spark. He urges us to think about exercise as medication when you have ADHD. And for some of us, he asserts, and maybe for a small percentage of us with ADHD, exercise may become something of a substitute for medication for some people in terms of treatment. But we know that it elevates, dopamine, norepinephrine, serotonin, and the neurochemicals that regulate attention and focus and alertness. And, I talk an awful lot about dopamine with my clients and in the podcasts and the teleseminars that we do, because it's so important to really have a general understanding of why our brains with ADHD function a bit differently. But, these are the brain chemicals that are in short supply for those of us with ADHD, or that are not processed the same as they are, in people we call neurotypicals, people without ADHD. So it can be of significant benefit for us to increase their availability and the usefulness of these chemicals with exercise.
So what do you think, or what is getting in the way for people with ADHD, especially those of us who understand how beneficial it is? So, what's getting in the way from you and I making it a number one priority and following
That's
through?
like the $1 million question, isn't it, really, when it comes to ADD? Why do we struggle to do the things we know we need to do, we know we should do? And I think a lot of it starts with our typical ADD characteristics, procrastination, disorganization, lack of structure, weak follow-through, interest, all of those things come into play. Procrastination, kind of an obvious one, and I don't really know how much you need to say about procrastination, but, when we procrastinate on exercise, we may procrastinate on other things too that can interfere with our ability to make time to exercise regularly. So when procrastination is a big problem with a client, it significantly affects their ability to manage time and to manage time well, because they're always, living their lives reactively, kind of putting out fires rather than proactively. Life controls them rather than the other way around. So procrastination on exercise itself is a problem because we run out of time to exercise, but procrastination on everything can affect our ability to make time or create time to exercise. And that's kind of, related to the whole time management thing. I hear from clients all the time about how they can't imagine how they could find the time to exercise. And I think I said this to you, before we started the recording. We all have the same 24 hours.
Yep.
But I've complained about that plenty in my life. I just, when I'm not managing things well, it's really hard for me to make time for things like exercise and things that are really more about self-care. So our struggle with poor time management can be largely to blame. Disorganization. It's amazing sometimes how much our disorganization can cause us to struggle with getting consistent
And the
exercise.
irony here is when you exercise on a regular basis or, do 20 minutes of cardio, it improves the focus, it improves the productivity, it helps with disorganization. I mean, that's the thing, it's almost like it will add more time to your day because you'll be more productive. So, I mean, this is one of the things that we know as experts, but yet it's like, why aren't we doing it? But then overwhelm can be a huge one. I know for me.
Yes.
Especially because there's all these bells and whistles and tools to help you exercise. There's this, there's that, there's the gym, there's the Wii, there's, I don't know, Daily Burn that I keep seeing advertised on TV. And so it's like, okay, I can do this, I can do that. Wait a minute, I'm not doing anything right now because there are too many choices. So, like, I think for me, one of the things is just choosing something I'll do. Not necessarily something I love, because that's the one thing, well, choose something you enjoy for exercise. And it's like, well, I just hate exercising in general. That's not going to work. Not that I hate it, but like you, I can relate to that. So what is it that's going to be easy for me to do? Because I remember years ago, well, people like, you love to swim. And I'm like, yeah, but, you know, I live, you know, in the Northeast, so during the winter, that really takes a lot of effort and requirement to go to a place to swim. So I mean, so maybe that's something I can do during the summer when I go to visit my parents up at the lake. That's easy, but during the winter, or, you know, when I'm not near a pool, that's not something. So it's choosing something that you'll know you do that's easy, that it's easy for you to, you know, get your gym clothes on. And I mean, that's the thing. It's overwhelming. There's too many choices, I think.
It definitely can be. And you know, throw on top of that all the apps. There are like a million different apps, you know, Map My Run, Map My Walk, you know, there's what is it, C2K, Couch to C2 5K or whatever, fitness trackers. You know, you got your Fitbits, you got your Garmin, you got all of these things that are designed kind of to make exercise better that can really end up just overwhelming us. And, you know, we end up like with so many other things, when we're overwhelmed, we end up doing nothing. And that's not the best alternative either. And it's, you know, and those ADD characteristics really come into play there too. If you're organized, if you're managing your time well, if you're following through on what you need to follow through on, if you have sufficient structure in your life and sufficient rhythm and routine, it doesn't require the amount of, you know, of activation, of getting started, of you know, deciding. If you're in that rhythm and you're organized enough that your gym bag's packed the night before and you know that you go when you go, or, you know, you walk at this time, it makes it a lot easier. But that's, you know, often a really hard thing for a lot of us with ADHD to implement, you know, especially on our own. It's tough.
I think just also understanding, like, your own brain, your own likes and dislikes. Like, the gym for some people can be so overwhelming. Like, I started going to a small gym a couple of years ago. I was paying a little bit more than, you know, the ones on TV they advertised, but it was great. And then I moved, so they didn't have that chain up where I'm living now, so I went to the cheap chain that they advertise all the time, and I didn't like it. It's overwhelming. And then I went through like a phase last year where I just stopped watching TV, and I don't think I turned the TV on for a month, and I went to the gym where it has, like, I don't know if there's like 30 TVs in front of me while I'm exercising, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming. Now it's not just like the reason I didn't go to the gym before. It wasn't just because I hated the gym because it was a gym. It's like it can be overwhelming, and so I think it's important to, you know, realize, you know, yourself, like, what do you do best? Do you do best walking alone in the woods? Or is the gym great for you because the other people motivate you and the other stuff help you? I think it's important to know that. I mean, what are you going to do, and what's going to get in the way, and what's going to support you in exercising too, which I don't think a lot of us realize that. And we just know, okay, we don't like this, and not realizing, okay, what about it don't we like, or what about it do we like?
Yeah, that kind of like digging at it. And it sounds kind of silly, but really digging at it, what is it that you don't like? I mean, when I was younger, like in my 20s, even my early 30s, I loved going to the gym. It was, I really looked forward to it. Now I can't, like, just the thought of going to a gym is just, it's yuck to me. Yeah. But it's not because of anything about the gym piece of it. Like I ended up, I have a gym in my home. I have weight equipment, and I have cardio equipment, and I have, you know, of course, lots of different things I could do, DVDs and all that kind of stuff too. But for me, it's the having to get dressed in clothes that are appropriate for public consumption. And I live very close to where I grew up, and kind of in between where I grew up and where I went to college. So, and my kids grew up here, so I can't go to a gym and not run into people. And I'm more of a I get in there, I want to work out, I want to do my thing, I want to focus, and I want to be done, and I want to move on. That I don't enjoy the social piece of it, but I have clients and friends and other people I know who love that social piece, so they would never like to do what I do. I get up, I get my kids off to school, I have a cup of coffee, and I head down to the gym when I'm in a good rhythm. I don't have to have makeup on. I don't have to worry, or I don't have to take yesterday's makeup off, or or be dressed in anything remotely appropriate for other people to see. I mean, it's just, it's really all about the workout. But that's not true for everybody. I mean, some people really need that social component for them to have the interest. And, I have a friend, and this is like absolutely like unconscionable to me, but she's a teacher and she lives like an hour from where she teaches. So she walks with a group of friends in her neighborhood 5 days a week at, I think it's 4:30 or 4:45 in the morning, but she loves it, and she looks forward to her morning walk with her ladies, and that social piece keeps her moving. I can't even imagine that, but you really do need to know what it is that you enjoy, and really find ways to get more of the parts that you enjoy in it, and that moves. That's a kind of like a moving target that changes over time. So really, when you start to resist, or when you start to really kind of slide on something that you have been in or had been enjoying, think about what are the pieces that are not so fun anymore. What are the pieces that are getting in my way, and really look at it from kind of a problem-solving perspective.
Yeah, no, and that's it. And sometimes it's just, I know we've discussed this before on other shows and in teleseminars. Sometimes it's just tweaking and changing one part of it that can change something. So, that problem solving and realizing, okay, maybe it's not the fact that it's the gym that I hate, maybe it's the time of the day. Maybe it's the clothes I'm wearing. Let's change it up. Sometimes it's that little thing that you can change and play around with that can make it so much easier. And, it's that little thing that can get in the way and stop you. So just, what can you tweak, with your exercise routine or program or lack thereof?
Yeah, and it's funny, like that part always like cracks me up with myself, and when I can get a client to realize how small the change can be to make something, kind of shiny or interesting for them again, it's really kind of a game changer. And I went through a phase like this winter. I had like a series of, colds and infections that just kind of lingered, and I really got out of whack with the resistance, the weight training part of my workout. And all I did was work out a new spreadsheet for me to fill in the kind of lays out the lifting that I do, the exercises that I do, and then boxes to put in the reps and the weight. All I did was a new spreadsheet format, and it was it was like a new gym with new it all felt new and shiny, and I was all into challenging myself again. And it was the same information, the same exercises, the same routine, with that really small little tweak of a different spreadsheet format and a clipboard. I mean, it sounds crazy, but it was just enough to really, kind of spark that little bit of dopamine rush that I needed to get me moving again, and then get back.
I don't know about you, but for me, the fact that we've just spent almost 20 minutes discussing this, I'm like, this is motivating me, giving me a little bit of a push. So what I'm going to do right now is commit to the thousands of people that are listening is that I'm going to get back on track. Brave or crazy. Then I'm going to get back on track exercising regularly. In addition to that, I've also started a free group at livingwithadd.com for exercise, some accountability support. So I'm going to invite anyone who's listening today to join us. Just go to livingwithadd.com and register for a free account and click on the group section, exercise support. So, and you guys can all check on me there. And the funny thing is, over the years, I've discussed my challenges with exercise on the radio show, and I've had people come up to me at national conferences and say, listen, Tara, how you doing with the exercise? And I'm like, oh, great. It's so people do check on me. So they'll hold me accountable. I'm putting it out there, Lynn. I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna say anything about you, but I'm just saying I'm putting it out there myself. But
I think that's terrific. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll jump in. How's that?
Okay, great.
All right, count me in.
I mean, we're talking about exercise anyways as experts, so I'm thinking that, that this is going to give both of us a bit of a push.
If that support, if that accountability, if putting it out there, to the universe, so to speak, helps you, then, go for it. I mean, I think that's awesome. I think the one piece of ADD and ADD type thinking that gets in our way the most with exercise for many of us, and I know this is it for me, because it's made like just a world of a difference as I've really started to look at this myself in the last couple of years, is that perfectionism all or nothing thing.
Yep.
So if you have this mental belief or this perception that what counts as exercise is, it has to be an hour, it has to be 30 minutes, and it has to, you have to kill yourself, it has to be at a gym, it has to be running, it has to be, whatever you're thinking exercise means. If you can start to challenge that, it's amazing how you can really start to get yourself moving again. Yeah. So the thing that I did, when I would go through these periods when I really get off track with my workouts, become like incredibly inconsistent. And I think when I say inconsistent, I mean just like not working out. That's pretty much what that means for me. You just stop working out for some reason.
I just didn't want to admit that outright, but that's what I meant too.
Call me on it. Yeah, that's what that means for me. Inconsistent doesn't mean once in a while. It means not. So. Well,
mine was okay. I did it last week, but I haven't done it again. Mine might be. So mine,
right. Too sporadic, right.
Yeah.
But when I really started looking at, I start to focus on different aspects of it. Okay, I'm not a morning person, but to get it in before work, I have to start before 7, which, for some people is nothing. For me, I always say anything before 7 ought to say p.m. That's just like, that's torture for me. Yeah. So, I get my daughter out the door, about 6:50ish, and then by 7 I have to be starting the workout, or I'm not going to be done and ready to go for work. And I know a lot of people have it a lot worse than that, but if I have to decide in the morning that whether I have the energy or really am awake enough or whatever for what I'm calling in my head a workout, it was not happening more often than it was happening. So instead I started thinking of it in terms of, I'm just going to do a little something to clear the cobwebs. And I would tell myself, like, you only have to do 5 minutes, on the exercise bike, or you only have to do 5 minutes, or, you only have to do just 3 minutes. Some days would be the most I would tell myself, and I started thinking about it instead of just clearing the cobwebs, just kind of waking up my brain. And that was when I started really being able to do it more consistently, because, 3 minutes, once you get 3 minutes in, your brain is starting to wake up. It doesn't feel so awful, as that getting started, that activation piece is, and it's much easier to keep going. I think the trick with me, I know when I'm telling myself a tale, or I know when I'm BSing myself. So if I'm telling myself I only have to do 5 minutes, but then I make myself do 15, I'm not going to believe it. So there have been times when I've gotten off the elliptical or off the life cycle or whatever after 5 minutes, because I'm done. I'm just tired, and, but I still get a little pat on the back for doing 5. Yeah. But more often than not, I'm okay to keep going for 20, 25, 30, whatever I have time to do once I get started. But I really had to
5 minutes is still good. It's not.
Hey, 5 minutes is better than nothing.
Still,
and that's,
yes, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, a lot of us can get really sedentary, and getting up, several times a day and doing 5 minutes here and there. That's actually pretty healthy. That's good. I mean, maybe you're not going to do a 20-minute or a hour in one sitting. Doing 5-minute spurts throughout the day, I mean, I think there's research that shows that might even be more beneficial than exercising a half hour once a day and sitting on your ass the rest of the day. So
right.
No,
I think it depends on what your objectives are or whatever, but just that little bit can wake your brain up enough to make the other stuff easier. Yep. And it really did create a shift for me so that I could give myself credit for exercising, 5 times a week, even if, 3 of them were for 5 minutes. That's better than, 0 times a week at 45 minutes. Yeah. And I really did not need to
build up momentum if you could start with 5 minutes, and because some people just are not used to exercising that long. Yeah. Sometimes starting with 5 minutes and gradually going up to 20 minutes or whatever the numbers are, but it's okay to start small. And for some of us, it's better to start small. And that's one of the issues I had. I was like so on track years ago, and then I'd get off track and try to get back on track, and I'd try to start where I was, 4 months before. And I get so sore and then not want to go back. So I have to remember, like, when I've taken quite a bit of time off from exercising regularly, that not that I have to start over again, but start slow and move up. Not like say, okay, I haven't been to the gym in 3 months, I'm going to exercise for 90 minutes at one time. That's not going to work. Going back and saying, okay, I'm going to start with 10, 15, 20 minutes and not kill myself, and then maybe get back up to where I was. But it's gonna take time. So I don't know. I think after talking about this, I'm a bit motivated to get back on track, and I'm hoping the listeners, especially those who can kind of relate to ours, are somewhat motivated too. And I hope people, I really want to remind you and invite you all to join the support group at livingwithadd.com.
I think that would be terrific.
Yeah, and we're actually at the end of today's show. Lynne, are there any final thoughts you'd like to leave people with, and can you make sure you give your contact information out?
Sure. I do think, you need to give yourself credit for whatever you're doing, and sometimes whatever progress you're making, regardless of how slow it is, and really, pat yourself on the back for those baby steps, because sometimes that's what it takes to really, create a habit and get yourself, where you want to be with something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we're happy to support you and each other at the exercise. I just totally flaked on what it.
The support group at livingwithadd.com.
Support group, yes, at livingwithadd.com. Sorry, a little ADD moment there. So I look forward to, seeing how people are making out with that. You can get in touch with me on social media pretty much everywhere, but at my website at www.coachingaddvantages.com.
Well, thank you so much, Lynne Edris, and thank you, everyone, for listening. And